Today's video is a little bit of a part 2 to one of our previously uploaded ones. We did a video recently about all the touring boots that we offer under £200. Today's video we're going higher end with things and we're doing all the touring boots that we offer over that £200 mark. We've got a little selection of 5 here, same as we did last time, but these are the slightly higher end boots, starting at £220-ish, working away all the way up to that sort of £400-500 mark. I'm going to explain to you what the differences are again in this price point. Obviously the big jump between something like a sub 200 and an above £200 boot. Let's see what sort of materials we've moved into, the types of fastening and closing mechanisms that we've jumped up to as well, and what makes these boots sort of worth it for that slightly more premium touring side of riding. So first up on today's list, I've got the Web Gore-Tex. This is one of the Alpinestars boots that is sort of widely regarded as one of the best bang for buck boots in terms of that Gore-Tex touring. Obviously it's a Gore-Tex membrane boot. A lot of people know about the Gore-Tex name like I explained last time. This is a really solid boot for the money. We're at £219.99, so we're just on that low end of the £200 mark. Full grain leather, this is an oil-based leather as well, so it's super soft when you're wearing it on your foot. You've got loads of flex, plenty of movement, and nothing's going to restrict you when you're on the bike. Opening and fastening system is just a very standard Velcro and zip method, so there's nothing too crazy, nothing too flash about that one. Nice and easy, we all know it works, everyone's had a boot like it before, it does the job dead well. Moving on to the interior, you've got a nice soft moulded interior on it. It is a polymer interior, so it's quick wicking, sucks up all that moisture, and it stops your feet and your boots getting a little bit stinky after a ride. Moving down onto the bottom of the boot, obviously you've got a nice thick rubber sole. This is an Alpine exclusive style of sole. There's nothing incredibly different or flash about it, however it gets the job done. Anti-torsion wise, inside of that sole is another Z plate down at the bottom. It's going to stop any twist happening across the bridge of the foot, keep you nice and secure, nice and locked in, and stop any unwanted movement when you're on the bike. One of the only downfalls that really comes across with the Web Gore-Tex boot is the fact that full grain leather production of the boot prevents that Gore-Tex membrane from breathing as well as it could do. So obviously when you're covering that Gore-Tex in a full layer of leather, as we all know, leathers get hot, they get sweaty, they get hard to get in and out of. You're going to find a similar thing happens with the boot itself. When you are getting warm and those temperatures get up a bit, not having anywhere to allow that Gore-Tex membrane to breathe and release the moisture is going to cause a slight buildup. So it relies heavily on that anti-wicking membrane on the inside to take out as much moisture as possible. And if it can't, you're going to be in the situation of you start noticing your feet are getting that bit clammy, that bit wet, something that none of us want to experience really on the ride. So taking the second place in our rankings today, we've got the Dane Esby boot. This is an incredibly solid boot for the money. We're at £259.99, so not an enormous jump from that Web Gore-Tex we just took a look over. However, this boot has an enormous range of features, which almost trumps the Alpinestars out of even consideration. One of the biggest benefits with the Dane Esby boot, and this is what a lot of people really appreciate about it, is it's a laminated waterproof boot. It is using the H-Dry membrane, which is not the Gore-Tex, but what it lacks in that Gore-Tex membrane name, it makes up for in the fact that it's laminated. This keeps things thin, prevents any massive build-ups, and it keeps things really flexible. You're in the same amount of movement, same amount of flex and give as what the Alpinestars is. However, as you might have noticed, you'll start to pick up a bit more of those breathability panels. Like I was talking about, one on the rear, one on the front, and another one just lower down above the ankle. This is going to allow that boot to breathe. It's going to give you loads and loads of moisture pulling out of the boot, and it's going to prevent that sweat buildup, and that wicking liner on the inside doesn't have to work quite as hard to keep you comfortable. Another massive bonus about the Dane Esby boot is its opening mechanism. The way this opens with twin zips up the side is a very sort of Daytona-y style of opening, which normally is reserved for, like I said, your Daytona boots, and we're into that sort of £300, £400, £500 mark. However, having this on a boot at the $259 price point with the lamination and all the other features it comes with is an incredible price to performance. Number 3 in our look today is the Infinity 3 boot. This is TCX's Gore-Tex boot. It comes in at a price point of $329.99, and it's an incredibly solid boot with a cool opening and closing system, which is one of the biggest selling points around this boot. Obviously, it's a slightly taller, a little bit more into that sort of adventure crossed with a bit of touring style of boot. However, it loses the buckles that adventure style boots have in favour for a BOA, or in this case, an A-top style of system. What this is almost a flexible adjustment closing system to it. So as you tighten the boot up, it's not going to adjust one point particularly heavily. It's going to adjust quite evenly across the whole foot. So if you've got slightly bigger towards the bridge at the bottom, it's going to keep that one a little bit loose, not so tight, and it allow at the top to shrink in a little bit. It offers a massive bonus over laces and things like Velcros. It gives you just a bit tighter and a little bit closer fitting depending on your foot shape. It's one of the biggest sort of selling points around boots like this. Also to mention, the absolute ease of use. A boot like this takes absolutely nothing to undo and get done up again. It's simply just twisting that A-top system on there, snapping it backwards, and the boot is nice and loose again. They're a super, super efficient method to get with. If you're someone like me, I don't really like faffing around with things. I want to be able to get a set on and immediately get out and go. The last thing you want to do is get all your gear on and then be messing around with a set of boots trying to get them done up. Waterproofing wise, they're a full Gore-Tex boot. So in terms of that, there is no questions on that front. They're super solid. They're going to keep you nice and dry. Like I mentioned on a couple of the boots prior to this, they do also have a few of those vent panels which you might have spotted. What that's going to do is let the Gore-Tex membrane breathe, help to keep things a little bit cooler, stop any moisture buildup in the boot itself. Given that this is slightly adventure-y, crossed with a bit of touring, the rigid sole is a nice one to see as well. Obviously, it takes away a bit of the feedback. However, you trade that for actual grip as you're moving. So if you're in wet surfaces or, slightly loose ground, it's going to help to keep a bit more of that sort of grip and control over the bike when you do come to a stop. Over on the inside, same sort of thing we spoke about. It's all quick wicking, it's all moisture lining. It's going to pull as much of the moisture away, get it out of that Gore-Tex membrane and allow your foot to breathe a bit nicer. Over onto the top, you've got a nice solid shin pad in there. Over on the front, there's a solid toe box. Same thing on the rear, there's a nice strong heel cup in there as well. For the price point, if you want a boot that's going to sort of tick both boxes, whether it be adventure riding or touring riding, you can't really argue. The TCX Infinity 3 does a wicked job of ticking both boxes for you. Let's move on to number 4, see what sort of options we've got as we move up. Just quickly, before we get back to the video, if you guys are enjoying these, if you're liking these sort of little in-depth reviews and ratings and stuff we're doing, don't forget, just drop a subscribe, leave us a like, whack a comment down if any of these boots you've had experience with or you're, planning to pick up at some point. If we've been helpful to you in some way, it's great to know. It just helps me know what sort of stuff to produce and what you guys are enjoying. If you'd rather I stuck with helmets, I can do some more helmet in-depths. If you're liking the boots and jackets and things, keep an eye on those. But yeah, check out all our socials. I'll have some links down below for you. So obviously the last boot that we looked at, that TCX Infinity 3, was that crossover between touring and adventure style. The Alpinestars SPX BOA Drystar boot I've got here is the crossover between sports and touring. Normally sports touring boots generally were a racing or a racing style boot with a waterproof liner thrown into it, and that was it, gone out the door. The SPX BOA has been slightly reworked to be more touring with a bit of sport aspect as opposed to sport with a waterproofy liner thrown into it. What this means is the boot has retained a lot of comfort from the Alpinestars touring range. However, it also shares a huge amount of the protection and safety from their racing and sport line of things. One of the biggest things you'll notice is obviously down at the front on that protection side, you've got a really, really solid set of TPU protectors. The little toe protector over on the outside of the boot is an incredibly tough bit of material. It is super well constructed and it's going to prevent any damage or anything happening if something does go wrong. Same thing over on the back end of things, a really nice, solid, tough rear protection over on the heel. And obviously that moves down into the sole as well. It's super tough down on the bottom of the boot. It's going to stop any of that twist, any of that movement going on, and it's going to keep the boot nice and secure where it needs to be. Waterproofing side, being a Drystar boot, we've seen the liner being used many times in Alpinestars products. That Drystar membrane is absolutely wicked. It serves its purpose and it does exactly what it needs to. Very similar to the TCX boot, you've got a BOA fastening system. However, this is an actual BOA branded system. Obviously pull out to release it, and there is the ease of access getting into the boot. Push down and twist to tighten, and you're nice and secured again. Up at the top, there's just a bit of Velcro thrown into there. It's going to help to secure any sort of trouser or jean or anything you've got on the top of the boot. Onto the interior, they're an incredibly thin boot, which is nice, and it helps to keep a lot of feedback. It doesn't feel like you're wearing a big, thick, bulky boot with these. They're nice and thin. They're incredibly lightweight. If you can get your hands on one of these, you'll see what I mean about the weight. They're super thin, super comfortable to wear, and they're going to do every job you want them to. The one other nice thing with the SPX BOA is obviously the sole on this one. Being that it's come from sort of material based in the racing boots, it's nice and soft, offers a huge amount of grip, but it is still touring focused. So it does have a nice gel sole in there as well. So it's going to keep the foot even super comfortable in the bottom of the boot. It's going to help you retain plenty of movement when you're on the bike. Obviously, one of the big downsides with this boot is its price point. It falls into a little bit higher end than what we would have expected. If the boot was priced a touch cheaper, it would argue with sort of those Gore-Tex based boots. The only thing this boot is lacking to create an incredible boot at the price point is that Gore-Tex membrane. And like I said, don't get me wrong, the Drystar membrane works really well, and we've seen it plenty of times before. However, it just doesn't quite have that guarantee and that backing that the Gore-Tex does. So at $359, it's still a really strong contending boot. And obviously, if you want that thin, plenty of movement, nice and flexible boot, it ticks those boxes really well. However, I just feel it falls slightly, not being a Gore-Tex boot, especially in the lineup of the boots I've shown you. We're talking mostly Gore-Tex and just about all of the things in this price point. This one does fall a little bit short in that category. Not least, I think it's the boot everyone kind of expected to be at the higher end of the price point. It's the Daytona Roadstar Pros. These come in at the price point of $469.99, so they are an expensive boot for that touring side. However, if you mention the Daytona boots to anyone, and anyone who's had them before will tell you how good they are. They are consistently comfortable, they last for an absolute age, and they do every single job incredibly well. We always get told in the shop, and everyone tells me when they've had Daytonas or looking at them, they're not going to come back for another 10 years to buy a pair of boots because these do the job they want them to. They last a long time, they're incredibly durable. Thanks in part to the full grain leather construction of these, they're really, really soft and subtle leather. In terms of breathing, they've made it so that the leather itself can actually breathe, and that Gore-Tex liner doesn't become too sort of saturated and blocked up on the pores. The sole of things, the only thing you'll ever really find with a Daytona boot after 10 years or 50, 60,000 miles, you might want to look at a set of soles with these. But they're incredibly tough, they are full of grip, they're going to do a massive amount to keep you in sort of those wet weathers. They're going to give you loads of control over the bike if you're doing slow maneuvers or anything like that. They're incredibly thick, as you'll see from the side here. They offer a huge amount of wear before they're ever going to start to show through. And like I said, in 10 years time, it might be the only thing you really want to look at having updated. Shift pads on Daytonas have always been a strong point as well. They'll last an absolute lifetime. The boots will keep going for ages. Moving on to the interior of things, they're incredibly soft boots to wear. The amount of gel and backed padding that is inside of these makes them super soft to wear. They have so much comfort built into them. There is an incredible amount of padding in there as well. They are designed to be like a pair of slippers on the bottom of your feet. The other thing people are really big fans of with Daytona is their opening system. Obviously, they've got the twin zips up the sides, bring it down to the front, and then you're in a nice, easy access boot. They do go one step further, which is nice to see, and they give you a rear adjustment as well. So if you're tucking in a slightly thicker set of textile trousers or something like that, you've got an extra pad on the back to work with and give yourself more flex or tighter flex, allowing you to close up any gaps you might have. Being full Gore-Tex, like with everything that we've looked at on the list, apart from that Alpinestars boot, they're going to be waterproof. It's going to do its job. There is absolutely no concerns that anyone has with a Gore-Tex boot. They're going to keep you dry no matter the weather. They're a big fan of people like the blood bikers and guys who are doing big European trips because they serve the purpose of staying waterproof, staying dry, and being incredibly comfortable. If you want a boot that's going to do you for the next 10 years, you're going to continue to ride throughout it. You can really sort of beat on this boot, use it through any bit of conditions. This ticks every box for you. Like I said, the only slight down point with this boot is you're into that sort of almost at £500 territory. They're an expensive, expensive boot, but if you break it down, you're getting what you're paid for with a set of Daytonas. So thanks for joining us today. Like I said, feel free, just drop a subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know if there's any boots out of this lineup that you enjoyed and sort of wanted to see a little bit more of. I'm happy to do a deep dive into things. Any questions or queries you might have, drop a comment. Feel free to email us as well. I'll have all of our contacts and things down below in the description. We're going to look at doing some more videos again. So I'm going to try and get a couple more boots and some styles, whether it be like those short trainery style of things. And I'll have a look at doing some more sort of road sport focused boots, as well as some track stuff as well. I've got plenty more videos in the pipeline ready to come. There's plenty more on the account as well. Feel free to have a look in some more other videos, see if anything ticks your boxes. And like I said, check out the rest of our. Thanks for joining us today. So I'll be uploading pretty soon again. I've got a nice video that's in the pipelines about doing some adventure clothing reviews as well. And I've got some special guests to come in and join us for that one. But I'll see you in the next one.